Hey, folks. So, this week I'll start with an anecdote. I think I may have told you this story before, but essentially, the first car I've ever owned was an old 1993 Renault Clio without power steering. It was an absolute horror to drive, and just forget about reverse parking. I would rather, like walk a mile to find bigger parking space than to try reverse parking it on the street. It was just an absolute nightmare. And obviously it did the job for a 20-year-old me. It did drive, but would I ever drive anything like that unless I absolutely had to? AKA, I was a hard up student and I basically was handed it down by my mom when she upgraded. Hell no, right? And I've never driven a car that was as bad as that ever afterwards. So why am I telling you this story? Essentially, this is what I see quite often in products and in product management recently. That some product managers, especially in startups, have taken the lean startup analogy a bit too far and way beyond the MVP and the beta stage. They still keep releasing features and do product launches that are extremely half baked and that resemble that MVP stage, which is a product that might be viable, but it's definitely not lovable, right? So, this is something that people don't want to use unless they absolutely have to. And being in the position when the users absolutely have to use your product is extremely rare. This can happen for a few reasons. Either you are in a niche that has an extremely high entry barrier, either for technological or regulatory reasons, right? So basically, no one else can enter the space, and you have pretty much zero competitors. How often does that happen in SaaS? Not very often, right? Another reason is that you somehow rope your users in at an early stage when they are still not aware of what is coming next, right? And your product is very sticky. So your users have built a lot of, I don't know, automations, templates, complex workflows that they don't want to move to another product because people are intrinsically lazy. And they have built enough until they have realized the problems with your product that they don't want to move anymore, right? That's a more common scenario, but still not ideal because people like Nathan Barry from ConvertKit can come over and simply offer your users um, assistance with moving to their tool. This has happened before in SaaS. This will happen again. And another reasons why your users will still stick around your MVP product is when you are extremely cheap, which also means that the unit economics will likely not add up and you will be forced out of the market by competitors that are basically offering a bit more value for still a sensible price. Then everyone who can afford it absolutely will, because nobody wants to drive a car without power steering, even if it's viable, right? It's a car. It's driving itself, right? Yeah. On that point, why do these MVP products and features happen all the time? Well, lack of resources is one thing, but I also believe not enough usability testing, not to be confused with user testing, which apparently doesn't exist. You can read more about it below. An excellent post that went viral by Andrea Saez, our guest writer and senior product marketing manager at Product School now. So yeah, that was just a product placement for our blog. Essentially, usability testing allows you to catch these problems with your UI in these like early stage half-baked product launches. And you can then see if your users are really struggling with using your particular product feature and if you need to still work on making it a bit more lovable, right? There is another article on how to create MLPs, minimum lovable products, rather than MVPs, minimum viable products, below. Yeah, and this is basically all I wanted to say today. Do your homework, do enough usability testing, don't launch half-baked product features unless you absolutely have to. And of course, do enough user research to understand if the feature you're working on is something that your users need at all. Because maybe, just maybe, you don't have resources because you've been launching too many features instead of launching the right features. I will leave you with that thought. See you next week.